Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen Robinson. I am your host, and today we have a very special guest, Leo Ebbert, who is the founder and president of Exact Click Digital, which is a boutique agency specializing in paid ads management. He began his career as a certified public accountant at Deloitte in Phoenix, Arizona, and in 2007, he founded Exact Click Digital in his hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee. Since founding Exact Click Digital, Leo and his team have helped dozens of brands drive over 1 million conversions through paid advertising. Welcome to the podcast, Leo.
Thanks, Arlen. Excited to be here and chat about e-commerce.
Yes, definitely. I'm really excited to talk to you. There's, of course, a plethora of topics that we could have talked about. You kind of sent over a list. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, and that's going to be the topic of our conversation today, is how to audit your digital marketer. Before we started recording, we were talking about, I was mentioning that these days, there's a lot more e-commerce businesses that are going the route of, not doing their digital marketing in-house. They're outsourcing it. They're working with agencies such as yours or freelancers. And, when you're doing that, you definitely need to have an audit type of process in place in order to make sure, you're getting your money's worth and, you're keeping these outsourced people on their toes. So, I think it's really timely to be talking about this today. And so that's kind of where we're going to be kind of diving deep into. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and, specifically how you did get into what you're doing today?
Yeah. So, like you said in my bio, I started in accounting, worked at a big four firm in Phoenix, Deloitte. I figured out pretty early on that was not my career path. It just wasn't, for whatever reason, it just did not really inspire me or make me want to, get up in the morning, go to work. So I bounced around a little bit. I experimented working with some other types of businesses, doing some consulting. And then one day, this is back in, I think, 07, 08, I had this business magazine and there was this article in there and a guy sitting poolside in Cyprus. And he said, I generate leads online and I sell them to businesses. And I thought, man, that sounds like a great idea. This is an up and coming industry. If he can do it and sit poolside in Cyprus, maybe I can do it here in Knoxville, Tennessee, right?
Right. For sure.
So started scouring forums. I started, asking people questions. I paid people to teach me, just kind of, bootstrapping this thing from the get-go, and convinced a couple of friends early on, people that had started businesses and they were trying to market. And I said, hey, I'll do it cheap. I'm cheap and I'll work my butt off to get results for you. So give me a shot. And that's how I started this agency way back in 08. I like to tell people I did this before it was cool, but you guys did it way before it was cool, right? You've been doing this for 22 years, but I've been at it for a long time. That's how I got into it.
That's good. Good stuff. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. An interesting transition that you made, you being a kind of a numbers guy and then going into the marketing agency or the marketing field and starting your own agency. A lot of times you don't often see that. Well, it's good that you do have that background as far as having the numbers, being a certified public accountant. So we can imagine that, you got a handle on your firm's numbers for sure. And, that's a good thing.
Right. And it does take a unique blend. You got to be a numbers guy. You got to understand how to analyze data and make the best choices, but you have to pair that with the creative angle, right? You can't just be numbers driven with ads. You've got to think from a consumer perspective, how to write ads in a way that's going to get good results and what kind of images and videos are going to do the trick, right? So it does take a unique blend.
Yeah. For sure. Well, that's awesome. But I think kind of where I want to start with our conversation today is really, whenever you're engaging someone to do work for you, services for you, I think you have to know a little bit about what it is you're going to have that person do, because for a number of things. For number one, you got to know type of results that you expect, because otherwise you can easily get taken advantage of, and so you have to really get that foundation. And so what I wanted to know as far as digital marketing is concerned, really what fundamental things do you need to know yourself, to be able to really audit your digital marketers and find out really if they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that. There's the term or the acronym KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Mm-hmm. And you need to have what matters most to e-commerce brands is typically going to be ROAS, your return on ad spend. Yep. For every dollar I give Facebook or Google, how many dollars in sales am I going to get back? That's, the simplest and most basic KPI that you would definitely want to have a handle on. But even before that, the question is, what should your ROAS be? And that's where a lot of brands, I think, can get tripped up. They get in their heads that I need to have a ROAS of this. And it may not be based on reality or what their numbers really indicate. I've seen a lot of brands who come and work with us and they'll say, I need a ROAS of this. And I'll say, okay, why do we need that ROAS? And, and when we get to the bottom, we start digging, and the answer is they're not really sure. They just maybe heard from somebody, or they did kind of a back of the envelope calculation and figured, well, my margins are this, and so I must need to get that in order to be successful. Yeah. And that's where someone like with my background, the accounting background, I can really add value to clients, because we can do a deep dive on, for one, what's your lifetime value of a customer? If you figure out your lifetime value, you bring in a customer today, what's that customer going to yield you over the next 4 or 5 years? And if you have that information, whereas your competitor does not have that information, you will have a huge leg up, a huge competitive advantage when it comes to advertising, because you'll know what your ROAS really needs to be. And I've seen a lot of times where a client will come to us and their ROAS, they might be shooting higher than they need to shoot. And then when they do that, they sacrifice scale, or they might be shooting lower than they need to shoot. And when they do that, they're losing money, right? So neither one is really good. So the key is figuring out what your ROAS should be, and then optimizing every campaign around that.
Yeah. I like that. That makes a lot of sense, because otherwise, if you don't know what that really is, return on ad spend, then you could be making a little bit. They could be saying, yeah, okay, you're getting a little bit of profit from this. We see the sales coming through from this particular ad, and depending on the agency or the person you're dealing with, they could be kind of spinning it to make it seem like you're really it's really a good thing, and it makes sense that you're really making more than you're spending, and it's really a profitable endeavor or campaign for you. So I totally understand how you really have to start with that, and establish those numbers. I think even before, even of course before launching a campaign, what are you expecting to get? What would be, what are your end goals? What are you looking for? Now, right. Speaking of kind of end goals and tracking, digital marketing is a pretty broad area. There's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of types of ads, different campaigns, different things that you can do to, drive sales, drive traffic to your e-commerce site. What would you say are some of the data points, that you should be tracking, other data points you should be tracking in order to perform, a successful audit of, whoever's doing the work for you? And, are there any specific tools that you recommend that somebody should use to capture this particular data?
Yeah, the tools, you can perform a pretty good audit just by knowing how to analyze your ad account, and maybe a little bit of Google Analytics. We created a guide on this on our website. It's called How to Audit Your Digital Marketer, and there's another one called Top 5 Mistakes Your Digital Marketer is Making. But the first one, auditing, it really does. It's a video course. They're very short, 5-minute videos. There are 5 or 6 of them, and it goes through how you can take an ad account and you say, all right, for example, is my non-branded traffic as profitable as I think? And you mentioned a second ago about how sometimes, someone managing the ad account might blend data or make things look better than they are, right? Well, this is a very common one that I see when I perform audits. Is I'll see agencies that will take a Google Ads account and they will mix branded traffic with non-branded traffic. All right.
Gotcha.
And what I mean by that is, if the name of your company, is, whatever, Exact Click Digital, and someone searches for my company name, they're very warm. They know who I am. They are looking for me. They're most likely going to contact me. Whereas someone who just goes out and searches for the service I offer, they have no idea who I am, right? So that's the difference between branded and non-branded. Well, the conversion rate on branded traffic is so much higher. It's way higher than non-branded. So a lot of times I'll see agencies that will blend those two, and then they'll, show you this data and say, hey, look at all this non-branded conversion traffic we're getting you. When reality is the vast majority of that is traffic that was going to convert anyway. So that's a really simple one. And I show you how to do that in one of the videos, how to segment the search terms and see. Another metric, probably be like, this is more on the social side. It's a similar idea, cold traffic versus warm traffic, right? Warm traffic is people who have, visited your website. They're on your email list. They know who you are. Cold traffic is someone who doesn't know you from Adam. They don't know you exist. Well, I see this again all the time in Facebook ads is agencies will blend those two traffic sources and they'll call something cold traffic or top of funnel that is not top of funnel. It's actually a bunch of retargeting traffic mixed with top of funnel, and it makes it look like it's converting. And reality is you're just throwing money out the window and you don't even know it, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, you brought up a few good points there that, I guess it's in a way it's a kind of a blessing and a curse that we have all of this data and all of these tools that can capture this data, that could easily, like you said, blended together and mixed together to kind of fool people. So yeah, it's good that we have all this data, all of these sources of information and how you can track it, but it's bad that, unfortunately, there could be some people that may not be that, scrupulous or, trying to take advantage of that could use this data against you because there's so much of it. And if you, manipulate it in such a way, it could make it seem like the results you're getting are better than they actually are. So, all of that, those points are definitely make sense. And it's good to know, that those are some things that you want to definitely, look out for. Now, as far as I would kind of circle back as far as capturing information and tools, you mentioned, of course, being very familiar with the tool account, the ad tool accounts, like let's say you're using Facebook ads, you're doing Google ads, being familiar with their whole interface, the reporting features and all of that. And that's awesome. One of the things though that I see businesses struggling with these days is because with all of these different ad accounts, you have so many platforms to have to be familiar with and to have to be able to go in and track. And I know these days there are, I guess what you can call marketing dashboards that could kind of blend all of this information or present it in a fashion that a CEO or founder could be able to easily digest. Are there any tools like that you're familiar with that you would recommend, or, are those things worth utilizing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hear that question a lot because it's this idea of attribution, of course. And it's like, you could have one customer go through their journey and you get Facebook taking credit for it. You get Google taking credit for it. You get, TikTok, Microsoft, Twitter. Everybody thinks they had the hand in getting this one converted. And the reality is they probably shared that job, right? The downside is with a lot of these tools, there are two major issues. One, I don't think their visibility is any better than, say, Facebook's, because you have the iOS issue, right? So Facebook has to model their conversions for any traffic that goes through iOS. Well, these third-party tools, they have that same problem. The other issue is advertising is moving towards a cookieless world. Even Google is headed that direction. They've kept, they keep kicking the can down the road as far as when they're going to do it, but they have every intention of doing that. And I think it might come this year. If not, I would think for sure next year.
Right.
But as they do that, it's going to be even more difficult for these third party, data aggregators to they claim to give you that visibility and cross channel attribution. It's going to be even more difficult to do that, to the point that I frankly don't think it's that valuable or even that accurate. Okay.
Right.
So our approach is a little bit different. We instead focus on click data. Okay. And you can push that data in through Google Analytics, for example, from Facebook. So Facebook gives you, they model their conversions and they say, hey, we drove all these conversions for you. Some of them were clicks, some of them were a view through conversions, meaning they didn't actually click the ad. Well, the view through conversions, you can't even really see anymore in the Facebook dashboard. You can't really break that out. But what you can do is append, the UTM tags on every click out of Facebook. And that will flow in through Google Analytics. And then Google Analytics will say, hey, look, this traffic came from Facebook and these number of people converted within, out of those clicks. And then that will give you a much better view anyway, in my opinion. You don't have to worry about trying to track view through attributions because those are so nebulous anyway. It's really hard to say that, if someone was served an ad on their Facebook phone or on their phone on Facebook, they then went to the browser and opened it up and completed the conversion. Some of that does happen, but can you really track that back? No, right? Mm-hmm. So relying on Facebook's modeling to kind of prove that out is not going to give you the best data anyway. What you really want to focus on are the clicks, people that actually clicked the ad and then performed an action, because that's the most basic event that we can track. We know that they did it, right?
Yeah.
So that I really shy away from those and encourage my clients not to pursue those. So I think you get data that is quite frankly better and less complicated just by pushing that data through Google Analytics.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That makes sense because I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot of these different data aggregators, these dashboards, and from outside looking in, it looks like nice to have, but I totally understand what you're saying. You could end up kind of seeing some skewed information that's not necessarily, 100% correct. So it's best to just take a look at the source and look at just kind of, like you said, the main thing is the clicks, where people going after that. And, that's kind of the bottom line there, for sure. Now, when you're starting a campaign with a digital marketer, so outside of your company, we kind of talked about this before. You want to really kind of have an idea of your expectations. I guess you need to have that clear within your own company. What is it that you're expecting? What type of results you're expecting with these campaigns that these marketers are doing? And, how does that translate to the specific benchmarks that you should set for them? How do you really determine that, these benchmarks, rather than just, because I know a lot of times companies engage, these digital marketers and then just kind of let them go to town. They don't really put any benchmarks on them. They just, whatever results they get back, and there's nothing really there that makes them accountable. So how do you really come up with the correct benchmarks for your company?
That's a great question. So I think there are two main aspects to that. One is you either go into an engagement and you say, hey, we are not getting the return we need to get. That's one problem. Sometimes the companies say, hey, we've got the budget, we're putting money into it, but we need to hit 5x, we're only getting 3x. Okay. So that's the easiest benchmark to say, okay, we're below our target on ROAS, we need to get it up to whatever the number needs to be. Okay. That one's simple. It's like, hey, what is ROAS at the end of the day? Now you gotta be a little bit careful with it, because like I mentioned before, you might think your ROAS needs to be 5x when it really needs to be 4 or it really needs to be 7. So you got to really dial that in, nail it down, know for sure what your ROAS should be. And then you've got your target that you're moving towards, right? Another thing to look out for on that is you need to pick an account-wide ROAS. So for example, Facebook, let's say I need to hit 5x. I've figured that out. I know my numbers. And I've got to hit 5x. Well, if you've got to hit a 5x account-wide ROAS, that means that in your retargeting funnel, you need to be hitting probably closer to 9x. And the reason is because your top of funnel traffic is going to probably slide in around 2x, right? And you can move the budget around proportionally to make sure that account-wide you land at that 5x. But you got to know going into it, in order to hit 5x on the entire account, you're going to be below it for the top of funnel. You're going to be above it for the middle and bottom of funnel. So if you're seeing those metrics in the middle and bottom funnel, if you're coming in at 5x on the bottom of the funnel, there's no way you'll hit that metric account wide unless you don't do any top of funnel. Okay. Now the other element, another angle is instead of maybe ROAS is where it needs to be, and you're just not getting the scale. Okay. So like, for example, we could really restrict spend and get you a crazy high ROAS. We could probably get any brand 10x by just restricting the spend, focusing on just the highest value, eyeballs, so to speak. But that's not really going to grow your business. You need scale behind it. Okay. So that could be another benchmark. If you say, hey, look, we're getting our number, we're hitting 5x. It's just that every time we increase our budget, the 5x drops to 3x. Okay. And so we have no scale behind it. We can't ever increase our spend without giving up the ROAS to where we're no longer profitable. So that would be a different way to look at the benchmark. Say, okay, we're hitting our 5x, but we need to be able to hit our 5x and double our spend so that we can turn over more dollars.
I see. Yeah, those are good points. Yeah, because otherwise, I guess the bottom line to that is you're looking at where your kind of shortcomings are within the company with some of the previous campaigns that you've done, and then I'm sure as a company you'd kind of know where you really want to be. And so you're going to say, that's probably the best place to start with someone, and to say, we're here, on a return on ad spend, but we want to really be here. What can you do with regards to some of the campaigns to get us here? And then, I think, just kind of thinking about it, starting kind of just at that basic level there will at least be able to give you, it's almost like if you're dealing with a digital marketer, that's almost like a good, kind of trials, if you will, before getting into doing any more, campaigns and more marketing to try to improve some other things. That's probably just a good starting point to start at. So you can kind of see, all right, if they're able to achieve this, then all right, they're able to increase it. They're able to get it to 5x, 10x even. All right, then, we can kind of trust you with doing some of these other things. So I think that's really a great place to start. Now, Leo, as we get ready to wrap things up, what I wanted to see is, in your experience, do you think there are any ways, or what do you think are some ways to incentivize digital marketers to hit benchmarks? Of course, you could be, paying these digital marketers maybe a fixed amount, maybe to do a particular campaign. But in our space, and especially in my space, we deal with incentive-based marketing all the time, performance-based marketing. And so do you see that a lot, as far as saying to digital marketers, all right, if you hit these numbers, we'll increase, what we're going to give you by such and such. If you hit this benchmark, it goes up. Do you see that? And if so, how would something like that be structured?
Yeah. So the most common one that I see is a percentage of ad spend, which I personally shy away from. I don't, because I don't feel like it aligns my interests with the client very well. I don't ever want my client feeling like, if I come to them and say, hey, we need to scale up our ad spend, if I'm billing them based on the amount they spend, then they're automatically going to think you're just trying to pad your invoice. Right. Yeah. And I don't like that dynamic personally. If you're going to do incentives, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is keep it as simple and like it needs to be totally unambiguous. Meaning, if you say something like, hey, if we increase our profit by 10%, I'll give you a bonus. Well, profit, man, there's so much that goes into the word profit that, it could be, and that's on both sides. The person that is the ad agency might define profit one way and you define it another. Well, now you've got a miscommunication and someone's feelings are going to get hurt, right? when someone doesn't get their bonus. Well, instead, maybe you say, hey, let's just base it on either top line sales, top line revenue. That's an easy one. Or you could say that instead of making it percentage based, you just put like an extra, whatever the bonus, it could be $1,000 bonus, $500 bonus. It's a flat fee bonus if we achieve, this ROAS by a certain date, something like that. It's something it's very fixed. It's definite. There's no ambiguity behind it. And I think that kind of stuff can help, and you just want to make sure you structure in a way that completely aligns your interests with the agency, and that there's never any, because people respond to incentives for better or for worse. Even the most honest person, subconsciously, everybody wants that bonus. They might just kind of, you tend to think about things differently unless it's aligned in such a way that really makes it make sense for you and the agency.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really good to know, because I can see this in the world of kind of the freelance digital marketing space where, a lot of these freelancers are going to be, they're kind of dealing with a variety of different types of businesses, and they're going to be a little bit eager to, to try to win that business over so they can continue to work with them. And that's where I can kind of see the whole incentive base is where they may say, okay, we'll reduce our fee versus, if we can do something incentive based. And so, yeah, it's good to know, some of the correct ways to really structure that. Cause, like you said, the percentage of ad spend is, obviously you're going to kind of be thinking that, yeah, all right, they're going to tell you to keep spending and spending and spending because, that's going to be more money in their pocket. So that's probably something you do not want to do. So, thank you for sharing that. That was, that's some great advice. And I know it's going to go a long way with our listeners. And I've definitely learned a lot on this podcast for sure, Leo. I guess this was an area that we never really kind of dive into, but I think it's really timely into kind of to the day that we're in right now. But lastly, before we close things out, I always like to switch gears just so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. So if you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we'd be interested to know.
Let's see. I'm kind of a huge Tolkien nerd. I really love the books written by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. Those are kind of things that everybody's heard of. But even his more obscure writings, I really like the stuff that he's written. I think he's just a fantastic author, kind of one of a kind.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of something unique about me. I've got this whole collection on my bookshelf of all these different books of his, and I like to dive into those and get my head into his space sometimes.
Okay, gotcha. That's some good stuff. Yeah, my brother is a big fan of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien. When we were growing up, he was a big fan of those books, and he read them all. And so, I definitely know that whole world, that whole space.
Nice.
Sure. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind letting our listeners and our viewers know the best way to contact you if they want to pick your brain anymore about auditing digital marketers or just anything digital marketing.
Yeah, thank you. So if they want to learn how to audit their digital marketer themselves, I've got a free guide on that on my website, exactclickdigital.com. And at the very top, there's a drop down for guides. If they'd like me to audit it, I will be happy to provide a free audit. If you go to exactclickdigital.com/free audit, you can sign up there. Just book a quick intro call with me to make sure I understand your goals, what you're trying to accomplish, and then I can dive into your account. I'll send you back a detailed video analysis of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. I definitely encourage people to check out those awesome resources that you're provided there on your site. I'm definitely check them out myself. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Leo, for joining us today on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thanks, Arlen.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.